I never expected my life to change because of a single envelope, plain white, slightly wrinkled, and marked with the fading blue ink of an old law firm. Yet there it was, sitting in my mailbox like it owned the place. I had no family left besides a few distant cousins I hadn't seen in years, so the last thing I expected was a letter titled, "Notice of Inheritance, Attention, Levi Collins." That was me, Levi, 32, mechanic by trade, quiet guy by nature. I lived modestly in a small rental house on the outskirts of town. I didn't own much, and I definitely didn't expect to inherit anything beyond maybe a dusty photo album someday. But life has a way of surprising you. Especially when it involves land. A lot of land. Inside the letter was a message from the attorney of my late grandfather's twin brother, my great-uncle Raymond. A man I barely remembered, except for a vague memory of him laughing loudly at a family barbecue when I was 5. The letter stated that Uncle Raymond had left me his entire property, 1,000 acres of forest, hills, farmland, and, apparently, a lake. At first I thought it had to be a mistake, but everything was spelled out in detail. The land was real. The inheritance was real. And according to the letter, I needed to travel to the small rural community of Cedar Hollow for a meeting with the property executor. I took the drive the next morning. The sun was barely rising as I followed the winding roads, passing tall pines and rolling hills until I reached the edge of the small town. Cedar Hollow was the kind of place where everyone owned at least one truck, the grocery store had only 3 aisles, and people waved at you even if they didn't know you. But the strangest thing was the enormous gated community I passed on my left. A massive stone entrance proudly displayed, "Whispering Pines Residential Estates, HOA controlled." The place looked fancy, big houses, perfect lawns, premium vehicles, and the sort of atmosphere that screamed, "We fine you for breathing wrong." What I didn't know yet was simple. This entire HOA community was sitting on my land. Land they didn't know wasn't legally theirs. And I was about to find out just how entitled they were. I arrived at the attorney's small office at 9 a.m. sharp. A short, elderly man with silver hair and round glasses greeted me with warm enthusiasm. "Mr. Collins. So glad you made it. I'm Executor Harold Greenfield. Please, sit." I sat nervously as he handed me several documents, maps, and deed papers. "Your great-uncle Raymond left everything to you," Harold explained. "He trusted you, even though you didn't know each other well." I skimmed through the maps, but one detail made me freeze. "Wait. What's this shaded area?" I asked, pointing at a neatly outlined rectangle of land. Harold sighed heavily. "That is Whispering Pines. The gated community. Built about 20 years ago." "Built on Uncle Raymond's land?" "Correct." "And they didn't pay for it?" "No," Harold said flatly. "They built it believing the land was abandoned. The developer fabricated paperwork, the town council approved it, and by the time the truth was uncovered, your uncle decided to let it be. Temporarily." "Temporarily?" Harold folded his hands. He always intended to reclaim it. He disliked the HOA immensely. They treated him horribly, harassed him, fined him, even tried to sue him for trespassing on his own property. He chuckled dryly. Oh, they had no idea he owned the roads they drove on. I stared at the map in stunned silence. "So you're telling me," I said slowly, "that the HOA's houses, roads, lawns, everything, is on land they technically have zero claim to?" "Not a single acre," Harold confirmed. "And as the rightful owner, you now hold all legal authority." My mind spun. I owned 1,000 acres, including the land beneath a wealthy, arrogant HOA. What did my uncle want me to do? I asked quietly. Harold slid a sealed envelope across the table. "His final instructions are inside." My hands shook slightly as I opened it. Inside was a single handwritten letter. Levi. If you're reading this, then I'm gone. I leave my land to you because you're the only one in this family who won't let those HOA tyrants walk all over you like they did me. They think they own the place. Show them the truth. Do what's right, and don't be afraid to shake things up. Raymond. I leaned back, exhaling slowly. A ridiculous situation. An unbelievable inheritance. A community about to learn a lesson. Harold tapped the map gently. They're holding an HOA meeting this Saturday. They would benefit from meeting their new landowner. I almost laughed. Oh, they're going to meet me, all right. I folded the map, pocketed the letter, and stood. Harold, I said, I have no idea what comes next. He smiled knowingly. Oh, I think you do. I walked out of the office into the bright morning sun, staring across the road toward the upscale HOA community built exactly where it didn't belong. They had no idea what was coming. And I hadn't even started. Saturday came faster than I expected. For the next 2 days, I pored over every deed, map, and legal document Harold had given me, trying to piece together how badly the HOA had messed up. It wasn't just one mistake. Oh no. It was a whole mountain of mistakes, stacked on top of fraud, ignorance, and pure entitlement. The HOA had basically built a luxury community on my great-uncle's land like toddlers building a sandcastle on someone else's beach towel. They never owned the land. They never leased the land. They never had the right to build a single brick. And the best part? They had no idea that their entire kingdom sat on land they didn't legally control. By Saturday morning, I was ready. Dressed in clean jeans, a pressed shirt, and a jacket that didn't smell like motor oil, I drove my rusted but reliable truck right up to the gates of Whispering Pines. The gate guard stepped out, clipboard in hand, eyes scanning my truck like it was contaminated. "Sir, this is a private community," he said stiffly. "Yep," I replied. "I'm expected." He narrowed his eyes. "Name?" "Levi Collins." His whole posture changed. He froze, blinked, then he actually gulped. Yes, sir. The board said to let you through." Immediately. The gate slid open like I was royalty. I smirked. Oh, this was going to be good. Whispering Pines looked even more ridiculous up close. Perfectly trimmed grass. Overpriced fountains. A row of SUVs that probably cost more than my house. I parked at the clubhouse, an unnecessary building the HOA used mostly to boss people around, and walked inside. The moment I stepped through the door, I heard voices. Loud ones. "We need to fine lot 37 for improper mailbox height." Someone barked. "And that family on Oak Ridge, still no approved dog color form. Why hasn't 12A removed that inflatable pool? It's a hazard." These people treated control like oxygen. Inside the meeting room, a long table sat at the front where the board members perched like judgmental hens. 5 of them, all looking like they'd stepped straight out of a catalog titled "How to Look Entitled Without Trying." At the center was the queen bee herself. Marjorie Lane, HOA President, 57 years old, pearls strangling her neck, hair so tight it looked painful. She scanned me from boots to hair and looked like she smelled something rotten. "You must be Mr. Collins?" she said, voice sharp enough to cut drywall. "That's me," I said, offering a polite smile. No one took my hand. "Let's get something straight," Marjorie began, tapping her papers dramatically. "This meeting will be quick. We understand you're the nephew of the late Mr. Raymond. A recluse, to put it kindly." I bit back a laugh. Oh, they really had no idea. "We simply need your signature," she continued, sliding a folder toward me, "to acknowledge the HOA's permanent authority over this community. Your uncle refused to sign it for decades, which caused endless complications." I opened the folder. A contract. A very illegal, very stupid contract. You want me to grant the HOA rights over the land, I said slowly. Yes, she said proudly. This community functions because of us. All we need is your approval. The room nodded, smug, confident, absolutely sure I would obey. Before I sign anything, I said calmly, I have a question. Marjorie folded her arms. Go on. How much do you think this land is worth? The board members exchanged confused looks. Well, Marjorie scoffed, the community itself is valued at $27 million. No, I said. I'm talking about the land. The land underneath your houses. They blinked. Looked at each other. Then back at me. One of the men on the board leaned forward. Sir, the land doesn't concern you. It belongs to the HOA. No, I said, cutting him off. It belongs to me. Silence. Ice cold, heavy silence. Marjorie's face stiffened. You can't be serious. I reached into my jacket and placed the official, notarized deed on the table. Erase the document, I said. The entire 1,000 acres, including every inch your houses sit on, belongs to me. Legally. Fully. Permanently. They stared like they'd seen a ghost. You must be mistaken, Marjorie whispered. No mistake, I said. Your developer built this whole community without land rights. And for the last 20 years, all of you have been living on property that wasn't yours. A man in a sweater vest stood abruptly. This is outrageous. Another woman gasped. Is this even legal? Completely legal, I replied. And you've been trespassing for 2 decades. Chaos erupted. People stood, shouted, waved papers, demanded answers. The board scrambled. Marjorie's face turned a shade of purple I didn't know existed. Finally, she slammed her gavel. Quiet. This is impossible. You can't own all this. I leaned back, relaxed as ever. I do. And I'm here to let you know things are about to change. What kind of changes? Marjorie demanded. I smiled slowly. The kind you're definitely not going to like. The room erupted again, shouts filling the air. But I stayed calm. Because for the first time in my life, I had all the power. And I hadn't even started using it yet. The meeting ended with the HOA board yelling over one another like seagulls fighting over a French fry. I walked out of the clubhouse with a strange combination of amusement and disbelief swirling in my chest. The looks on their faces when I dropped the deed on the table? Priceless. If I could have framed the moment, I would have hung it above my fireplace. But as satisfying as it was, I knew the real battle was just beginning. Harold, the executor, had warned me. They won't take this lying down. They'll fight tooth and nail. And he was absolutely right. By the time I got back to my truck, I already had 3 HOA board members marching toward me across the parking lot. Leading them, red-faced and puffing like she'd sprinted a marathon in heels, was Marjorie Lane herself. Behind her were 2 board members, Gordon, the sweater vest man who acted like he invented grass, and Linda, who somehow managed to scowl and smirk at the same time. Marjorie jabbed a finger toward me. You can't just walk in here and threaten us. I leaned casually against my truck door. I didn't threaten anyone. I just told the truth. You are attempting to seize property from innocent homeowners. Gordon barked. Innocent? I raised an eyebrow. You built on land that wasn't yours. Linda stepped forward, pointing a neatly manicured nail at me. This community has existed for 2 decades. Surely that counts for something. It does, I said with a shrug. It counts as 20 years of unintentional trespassing. Marjorie's jaw clenched. This, she said with trembling fury, is not over. I know, I replied. We're just getting started. I got in my truck and drove off, leaving them stewing in their own outrage. The next morning, I woke to the sound of my phone buzzing with notifications. Harold had emailed me the next necessary documents. The official notices. Notice of land ownership VE changes to community regulations. In simple terms, HOA residents were about to learn the truth, formally, legally, and unmistakably. After a long phone call with Harold, I printed the packets, loaded them into my truck, and headed back to Whispering Pines. If I thought yesterday's meeting was dramatic, today was an Olympic event. As I parked near the clubhouse, residents were already gathered in groups, whispering and pointing. They'd clearly heard rumors. The moment they saw me carrying envelopes, the entire community seemed to suck in a collective breath. Is that him? That's the landowner? That can't be true, Marjorie said he was bluffing. No, I saw the documents, he owns everything. A woman in yoga pants approached me with forced politeness. Excuse me, sir, but are you the man causing disruption? Disruption? I repeated. No. I'm the guy who owns the land you're standing on. Her eyes widened and she took a full step back like ID announced I was contagious. I walked house to house, placing the official notices in mail slots, on doors, or directly into stunned hands. Some people were confused. Some were panicking. Some were angrily muttering about lawyers. And then there were the ones who wanted to fight. A tall, broad, overly confident man stormed down his driveway as I approached his home. You aren't taking my house, he shouted. I've lived here 15 years, and am not moving. I'll chain myself to the porch if I have to. I glanced at him. Relax. I'm not bulldozing anything today. Today? He sputtered. I continued walking. By the time I reached the last street, a small crowd had formed behind me, watching, whispering, reacting. Some recorded me on their phones as if I were a celebrity, or a criminal. But the real tsunami hit when Marjorie herself appeared. She marched down the sidewalk with enough determination to split concrete. How dare you hand out notices without HOA approval? She screeched. I handed her an envelope. Here's yours. Her hand trembled as she ripped it open. I watched her face drain of all color as she read the first line. Effective immediately, all rights to the land revert solely to the legal owner, Levi Collins. Her eyes darted down the rest of the document as if hoping it would magically contradict itself. It didn't. You're insane, she whispered. No, I said calmly. I'm the owner. She threw the papers at my feet. We will fight this. We will sue. We will get an injunction. And you, young man, will regret this. I bent down, picked up the papers, and handed them right back. You can try all that, I said. But the law is not on your side. A murmur swept through the crowd. Marjorie pointed at me dramatically. This community will never follow your rules. I smiled lightly. Oh, you already have been. Every road you drive on? Mine. Every trail? Mine. The lake behind your houses? Also mine. The crowd gasped again. You can't intimidate us. She yelled. I'm not trying to, I said. I'm informing you. Informing us of what? She snapped. I let the silence build for a moment. That change is coming, I said simply. And you'd better prepare for it. Then I turned and walked away, leaving the HOA president fuming and the entire community buzzing with fear and uncertainty. Because now they finally understood. Their world wasn't theirs anymore. And tomorrow, they would find out exactly what that meant. The emergency HOA meeting was already in full swing by the time I walked into the community clubhouse. The room buzzed like a beehive kicked one too many times. Folding chairs were filled with furious homeowners, and at the front sat the three-panel leadership council, looking like they had swallowed a bag of lemons. Carla, my favorite HOA president, shot to her feet. "There he is!" she screeched, jabbing a finger at me. "The disruptor. The trespasser. The legal owner?" I offered politely. A chorus of gasps rippled around the room. "You'd think ID announced I was canceling Christmas. We won't stand for it," yelled Mr. Fredrickson, the same man who had complained in Chapter 2 that my future cabin would disturb his aura. "You can't just build whatever you want. The HOA has rules. On your property," I corrected, "not mine." Carla slammed a thick binder onto the table. "This community's aesthetics matter. Your new trail entry, your workers, your equipment, it's upsetting everyone. We have every right to regulate what affects us." "My land," I repeated. 1,000 acres that existed long before your decorative mailbox regulations. My calm tone only seemed to fuel them more. They wanted chaos, I gave them legal boundaries instead. I let the room erupt for a moment, people waving papers, pointing aggressively, whispering about me like I couldn't hear them. When the noise peaked, I raised the envelope ID brought with me. "Actually," I said, "I'm glad we're all here. Because you'll want to hear this." The room quieted. I pulled out a stack of documents and placed them on the table. Environmental Impact Study. County Land Use Survey. Trail Entry Approval signed by the Commissioner. And a report from the State Fire Department. Carla's eyes narrowed. "Fire Department? Why?" I took a step forward. "Because your HOA illegally built a fence, 3 decorative stone pillars, and a garden border that extends about 8 feet onto my land." Silence. People looked around, confused. But nervous. "It's not true," Carla said, voice tight. "Our property lines were professionally surveyed by a company your cousin owns?" I asked. A snort of laughter escaped someone in the back. "Regardless," she snapped, "that fence has been there for years." "Correct. And for years, it has been blocking an emergency fire access route." The state fire marshal was not pleased. I let that settle in. Several homeowners shifted in their seats. I continued, "Since it's my land, and the HOA is trespassing on it, they have exactly 3 options." I lifted 3 fingers. Option 1, remove the fence within 10 days. Option 2, pay for a legal land use lease. Option 3, fight me in court and explain to a judge why you're blocking emergency access on someone else's land. Carla's face drained of color so quickly you'd think someone unplugged her. But you can't do this," she stammered. "This is harassment." I handed her a copy of the fire marshal's letter. "Actually, the fire department can fine you up to $5,000 per day until the obstruction is removed." Someone in the front row groaned, "Carla, what did you do?" "A crack in the HOA armor." "Beautiful." Before Carla could gather herself, I delivered the final blow. "Oh, and one more thing." I placed a large map on the table. The overhead view clearly showed property lines. Several homeowners leaned forward. "The walking trail in building? It'll be open to the public. But to keep traffic away from the neighborhood, I'm putting the entrance on the other side of the acreage, near the highway. So no, I'm not disturbing your neighborhood." Another ripple of murmurs. Some relieved. Some guilty. Some suddenly realizing they'd picked the wrong side. "And just so you know," I added, "I'm also partnering with the local Wildlife Foundation. The area bordering your subdivision will be protected land. No development, no construction, no noise. just forest. One woman, who'd been glaring at me for 2 chapters straight, slowly blinked. That actually sounds lovely. Carla sputtered. You can't side with him. He's the enemy. No, said Mr. Fredrickson, standing. He owns the land. And it sounds like he's doing more for the environment than we ever have. The room shifted. People glanced at one another, recalibrating alliances. Carla, realizing her power was slipping, tried a last-ditch meltdown. This meeting is adjourned. None of this is valid. The HOA will not bow to. A man in a green polo lifted his hand. I motioned to override the HOA president's objection and comply with the landowner's requests. A dozen hands shot up. Then more. Then nearly everyone. Carla turned bright red, then abruptly sat, defeated. I gave them all a polite nod. Thank you. I never wanted conflict. Just for people to respect the land and the law. As I walked out of the clubhouse, the cool late afternoon breeze met me. The tension I'd carried since inheriting the property finally began to lift. The 1,000 acres weren't just mine legally now, they felt mine spiritually too. And the HOA? They finally understood something important. You don't mess with someone who respects their land more than they fear confrontation. As I reached my truck, my phone buzzed. A message from the Wildlife Foundation. Approval confirmed. Ready to begin Phase 1. I smiled. This wasn't just land anymore. It was a legacy. And despite everything the HOA had thrown at me, they had no idea what was coming next. The good kind. A future built on peace, nature, and freedom, not petty rules. And finally, I could breathe.